You are listening to the Savage FINcast Retro, episode 32, star number 1 and number 2.
Chicago. A criminal mastermind called Overlord held our city in his terrifying grip. Ordinary cops were losing the battle against Overlord's super freaks and mutants. Then, a miracle happened. When I found him, he had no memory of his past. I helped him find an identity and a life. Now we have a fighting chance. Now we have the Dragon.
This is the Savage FINcast Retro, the show that ain't no seafaring samurai. My name is Jim Purcell.
I'm Craig Olson.
And I'm Mark Welser.
Hey, Mark Welser. I feel like we're at a point where I can stop acknowledging that you're a guest host. As you've been on several episodes at this point, you're practically a regular.
But it always feels nice to get an acknowledgement and an introduction from you, Jim. So I'll take it.
It's always great
just in
to have
case
you
people
on.
forget who I am.
We can't consider him a regular until he completes the hazing process.
Yeah, we gotta beat you with bats.
Well, I'm halfway there.
But this is the Savage FINcast Retro, the show where we go back to the past and look at all the interesting and cool Savage Dragon and highbrow production related comics in approximately publication order as best we can manage. Which is why we are this week covering Star issues 1 and 2, which came out simultaneously as last episode's Super Patriot, Liberty, and Justice 1 and 2. This entire period of time is going to be quite the congestion of titles. Now, some would say we should probably just stick to one, since these are all short miniseries, but I say no. No, we're doing it my way, because I'm the boss. I started this ship. I'm going to run it straight into the sun. It's my choice.
He's a passionate one.
I'm feeling
Captain's
foxy
not
today.
always right, but he's always the captain.
But yeah, we're going to be covering Star, which is I would say, probably the more interesting series to cover because I've never read it before, so it's new to me, which is cool. I believe Craig has mentioned before he has no recollection of what happened in this series.
Yeah.
I think we're going to find out why, too, when we talk about it.
I will. It's a really interesting, as I read the first issue, to realize that Star had only appeared once before this, and that all the stuff with like his identity had not yet. Because again, I'm coming at this from a perspective of I've already read Savage Dragon. I know what Star's deal is.
Well, he had shown up a couple times between the miniseries and here, because he showed up during the possession, which was 15 of Savage Dragon.
Well, he showed up in the miniseries first, right, with the long hair.
Yeah,
right.
And then he got burned off, and it was burned off in a backstory in issue 2, I think, of the regular series.
Did Adam Hughes or someone drew that?
Okay,
That
so
was
he's
kinda
actually
good, right?
He has been
Rob
around.
Haynes, maybe.
Oh.
But do we know who he is in
No.
Dragon at this point?
No.
That is still a mystery, like Mighty
There's
Man
all
was.
these like
But
false
Peter
flags.
Clapton has shown up in Savage Dragon.
And we've seen that he had his hair burned off and his leg broken. Correct. In Savage Dragon, because
I
he would have
believe so.
he would have got his leg broken when possession happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, and
But no,
So-
we don't know his secret identity yet.
We don't know who Chris Robinson is yet. This is kind of his debut in this series.
Yes.
Although wasn't there a backup about the whole hair burning thing? Wasn't there?
Yeah,
the
we
back
fought
issue?
Inferno. That was in Savage Dragon 2.
And
It was
didn't
very short.
And didn't that show Clapton burning his own hair off to maintain his identity?
but
No.
it's in the regular book though.
Yeah,
It's
in the
like
regular series, there's like something on the news where it's about like Peter Clapton was in a fire.
Okay, so
and then you see him in his hair short.
So we don't actually see him. We don't
issue
see him
6
burn
maybe.
his own hair.
We do in a flashback, and I think in Savage Dragon 31
Okay,
or
so
32.
that's further in the future then. So at this point, we are meant to believe Peter Clapton is Star. That is the seeds that have been planted. So this is not like telling us something we already know story.
No,
unless you're a listener that doesn't know.
Right.
Yeah. But you should.
You're reading this for the first time, but there's lots of trickery in this book around.
Yeah, but I'm kind of in the same. Craig, did you read this when it came out?
Not when it came out, but I read it when I got back into draft. Like I took like a big hiatus, and then I got back in right before the Savage World.
Okay.
And I went back and like bought everything at that time that I could get my hands on, and I must have read it about that time.
Yeah, I didn't read it when it came out either, I think all three of us already knew who Chris Robinson was.
Yeah.
When we read this. Because a lot of the stuff, it got rehashed in, I want to say it was Dragon 31.
Yeah, I don't remember what issue.
I'll believe it. Yeah, it was right when Dragon came back from hell, and he had those tiny arms, and they kept cutting back to Chris Robinson's, and some of the pages from this miniseries were redrawn by Eric, so that's when I learned about it. So when I went back and read this, I was like, oh, I already know who it is.
It was really, when you think about it, like a fun time in Savage Dragon with so many, like, guess who this is, the Mighty Man, and, is it the reporter who's got the same, letters in his name? Is it, who's Mighty Man, And then it was also, there was Star, and then there was one other person that, of course, Dragon. It was like, is it this Rodney guy? What's
Overlord? Overlord. There was a thing with Powerhouse.
Yeah.
For a while too, wasn't it? Oh no, that was Overlord. Who was Overlord? And it was never mind. But yeah, I was just trying to see who was fooled by this when they read it, but apparently none of us, because we already knew who he was when we read this.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. I can't remember at this point. It's so long ago.
Because reading it now, seeing all the hints that points to Peter Clapton seems so obvious. And, but at the same time, in the letters column, Eric's like, well, I'm not going to, we don't know who he is yet.
I thought, like, reading this, that he did a good job. Kind of like, it's easy in hindsight now that you know. But
that's the thing that I'm trying to see. Like, is it just because I'm a smartass and now because I already know that it seems like no idiot would fall for this?
Yeah.
But, who knows? Maybe if Raven was here.
Maybe he was a sucker. Maybe he
got suckered.
Fooled.
But I do know Augie was the first one to figure it out in the letters.
Well, I believe in the letter column of issue 2, Eric says he has to be very careful about what letters he prints because they may contain spoilers, perhaps.
Right.
So he has to be non-committal on some responses.
Right. But whatever. It is star number 1. Let's go.
Well, interestingly, as we talked about last time, Tom and Mary Bierbaum are now contributing to various highbrow books, and in this case, they are apparently in charge of the whole story, not just the.
I should add that they still live in my town of Erie, Pennsylvania. As far as I know.
Do they still? No changes. Are they writing anymore for comics or anything?
As far as I know, not really.
I think they're just riding their bikes around Presque Isle down here by the lake.
I gotta say, the opening scene of Star is pretty good. I like
this
it.
First
I like the
page
setup.
Is really good. I like the way that this is set up.
The
with
reflection in the window, yeah,
that's
and then
very smart.
It's very Spider-Man-esque. Like he's setting Star up to be like a Spider-Man character. There's a lot of information kind of in these first 3, 4, 5 pages. You get the tie-in with the Vicious Circle. You've got Star making the Spider-Man-esque quips, very jokey.
Quips constantly.
And the beer bombs are really good at it.
Oh, yeah.
This is some good spider quips. The only problem that I have with this opening scene is Gauntlet is very generic looking. I really wish Eric would have designed some guy for him. And his little bozos that he have that all have their own little uniforms doesn't feel very Vicious Circle to me.
No, they're very goony goons. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they're all
minor.
To be fair, this Gauntlet guy isn't meant to stick around very long.
No, but it's a minor complaint. And they do mention that he's with the Vicious Circle, but they don't feel very Vicious Circle to me.
I think it's funny that the Gauntlet guy's got this giant gun, but yet he's got like Gauntlet 200-pound fists. Like,
yeah, maybe he needs them to lift the gun.
The gun doesn't do anything. He just
drops
holds it in one page. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird that he's using it to threaten the model here.
But he's got goons with guns.
They all have guns.
He can just crush her.
Yeah.
You know what? I think that's the problem with the goons being associated with the Vicious Circle. They're not freaks. Or at least they don't appear to be. They appear to be human, which would not really associate with the Vicious Circle.
Yeah, it just needs someone to shoot with shurikens.
Yeah, he does.
We can probably assume that they all have, if they're with the Vicious Circle, that they probably all have super strength.
Yeah, they're all bulletproof.
Their wiki probably says they have super strength.
It's one guy that can multiply.
Oh, there you go.
That would solve the problem immediately. Now that we're talking about the issue, we should probably just mention it's drawn by Ben Herrera.
Yes.
And I'll say this based on what I'm looking at on Comic Vine. He has not done very much. His longest run was like a 9-issue run on Freaks at Malibu.
Is that Freex?
That is. How that's spelled. I don't think I've ever said that title out loud before. I guess I didn't realize it's pronounced Freaks.
I don't think it's horrible. It's not my favorite stuff, but I think it holds up better than a lot of the early Image stuff.
It reminds me of a Wish.com version of like Jason Pearson.
Yeah, that's very I totally see that. Kind of the squared off kind of look on a lot of the characters.
Yep. Like it's not bad, but it's just very plain.
And it's hard to like compare after reading like a Dave Johnson comic because the backgrounds here are very sparse.
Yes.
Just lots of speed lines, which the speed lines aren't even that great. But like I said, not the worst. It's definitely better than a lot of the art that was considered passable back then.
Yeah, it's not terrible, but it's not one of the... It's also not the worst highbrow book that we're going to see. But it's good. It's a fun style.
Would you say it's better than the Deadly Duo art?
I think it's better than the John Cleary one.
Yeah.
I'm just not a fan of the... Back then, I probably would have said no. I probably would... I bet you that John Cleary one was one of my favorites back then because it looked like McFarlane, and I, like everybody else back then, was a huge McFarlane nut. And now I can't... All I see is all the flaws, and I cannot like it. Like, it's weird how different my tastes have evolved, but...
Well, you should be lucky, Craig, that there is not a letter of yours printed in an issue of Savage Dragon where you declare that you think John Cleary's Deadly Duo series looked better, because I wrote a letter that said exactly that, and it's printed in an issue of Dragon, and I would love to take that back publicly now.
I get it, though. For that time, though, everybody was, like, eating up anything that looked like McFarlane, right?
Right.
And honestly, like, I thought the McFarlane Spider-Man book was like the best thing ever to come out, ever. Nothing could ever top that. And now I look at it and all I see is the flaws. Like, I don't feel anywhere near what I felt then.
Agreed. But Ben Herrera, he does have some good angles here on his action. There's some good movement in his panels.
It's just
Not bad. It's just, like you said, sparse.
Sparse, and it feels like the camera angles are kind of just pretty vanilla, you know?
Star's head is oddly boxy, too.
I think that's just, his style.
And
I do like the idea of a Star motorcycle.
I love the Star cycle.
Like the idea that, you know, Peter Clapton just wants to be like a Batman type guy.
Yep. And then he shows up in the second issue on the jet ski.
Yeah.
Just has all these toys.
Yeah.
Stuff a millionaire musician playboy would have. I mean, there's no coincidence.
It's an interesting concept. I'll give you that. I just don't think it was fully executed the best way.
The premise of the rich celebrity who wants everyone to believe he's a superhero.
Yeah.
I think it's a great concept.
Yeah.
It's weird,
but it's like once you figure out who the actual guy is, like then where do you go from there?
Right.
I guess from a story perspective.
You get to have an on again, off again relationship with Alex, and that's where that goes.
Right.
But did either of you ever find it weird his name was Peter Clapton, or distracting that his name was Peter Clapton?
Like Peter Frampton and Eric Clapton.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be.
Okay, so it's weird to have your quote unquote main character have a pun name like that, like the other pun name celebrities. Larson does,
or like
hair a pair of
Liberty
testes.
And Justice Farrell.
Yeah, that's oh wow, we are 2 for 2, aren't we?
Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think, was in the Deadly Duo.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, but but usually they're
Maid.
not a main character. Yeah, Meter Maid, I guess, but not a take on an actual celebrity's name.
Right.
Yeah.
Jerry Rivers.
Yeah.
Jerry Rivers.
Sometimes it is a bit distracting. Like it does pull you out, but it's also kind of fun.
But it also, it's a good shorthand because you hear that name, you know exactly who he is.
That's true. Right. You hear Clapton, you go musician.
Yep.
Right. Good point.
But this top of train fight's fun too. More That's the thing about this issue in particular, is that it's full of action. It opens with action. We get a big train scene in the middle, and then it ends with the flying drones over the water. That's kind of what this issue in particular, and then possibly this whole series, is that you see a lot of Star in action, which you can really appreciate, except for the fact that in doing so, there's very little time to develop like Peter Clapton and his little clique as characters. You just kind of get cutaways to them, like they're almost like secondary to their own title.
I wonder if, and I'm thinking about this from like a writer's perspective, is if you spend too much time with Peter Clapton,
right,
that it would become very obvious that he is not the same man.
Right.
Yeah.
And his mysterious bodyguard.
But I agree, though. As a reader, though, it is a weird pacing to these stories, because you do want to know more about them, and they give you very little.
The train heist is fun because you get that like really weird techno train car, like trying to steal the train.
Yeah.
So one thing I'll say over these 2 issues that we read for this episode, I still don't really know what the goals are for these bad guys. It'll be interesting to see where that goes in the future issues, because I have not read ahead.
I've read all of these before, but like for this, I just read 1 and 2, and
Same.
I do not remember.
Same.
If these bad guys show up again later. I know Morgor shows up, but
I do think it's funny, like these like quote unquote drone things is like way before drones are a real thing, you know?
Yeah. These guys he's fighting are definitely techno. Like, not. See, it's interesting because they're also like cyberized techno guys with armor, and to be fair, the armor stuff the designs are pretty cool, but coming off of Dave Johnson's, like last time, it's not quite as good. Whereas
it's also not fair to compare this to Dave Johnson.
Right.
I mean, no offense to Ben Herrera, but he's definitely no Dave Johnson. But they're not bad. But it looks like this is like a book more for like a younger audience, like
That's
the simpler
true.
art style, the simpler stories.
A lot of action.
Like a Saturday morning cartoon. Yeah, action stuff. But I can't imagine if, as a reader, if this was my first introduction to Star, if I read this first issue and I'd be like, I gotta get the second one.
Yeah.
Because you don't know that there's a mystery.
Yeah, that's true.
The twist you don't see coming because they don't really
tell you about it.
Tell you that it's I don't know.
You do get a big clue about it in this issue when we go to the kung fu training scene, the sparring when Chris comes in and wallops him with basically no effort, because it kind of shows that we've just seen Star like fighting on top of a train, and you're telling me this guy can't go one-on-one with this guy.
One hit and he's down.
Right.
I think my problem with the issue is like after the first scene, it's I don't know. It's like the characters aren't interesting. Like those robot things kind of show up real quick on the train. They don't really do much. He jumps off the train, and then the drone things are just kind of boring. They're just I don't know.
Right.
It just doesn't. I'm just like
He's not fighting guys so much as he's fighting like tech.
Yeah. Or maneuvering off a train or whatever it is. It's just like I would much rather like one or two guys going at it and just really get a feel for Star than just him jumping from place to place to place.
But I will say those beer bombs, like they got that dialogue down.
Yeah.
It's a shame that they haven't done more stuff because I really like reading their scripts.
Yeah, they have their Legion stuff is great. I'll tell you that for free.
I have a bunch of it that I've never read because I was a time when I was just collecting a bunch of Giffen stuff.
Yep.
But I think it's my run is incomplete. I think I was waiting till I have all the stuff my blind spots filled in, and I just never got around to it. But I feel like issues 1 and 2, having read them back to back, should have been condensed into one issue.
Yeah,
I agree. So we're jumping on to issue 2.
I mean, that's unfortunate. Unfortunately, you have to.
There's nothing really
anything
to say
with
about
the ads or anything. And
I will say that the last page, there's that panel of Star's face where you can see his lips through his mask, which is disgusting. That is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh yeah, he's making. Yeah, you see it like pressing through the material.
Horrifying.
Looks like a blow-up doll or something.
Yeah. I didn't see his nose.
Thank you for that, Craig. Thank you for putting that into my head.
All right, well, now maybe it's not so bad. But no, there's really not a lot to say about this first issue.
We got some of the ads again. This Ain't No Seafaring Samurai for Vanguard #1, which we maybe figured out years ago and forgot again what that reference is.
As of this recording, we have not figured it out.
You got the Savage Dragon Pewter limited edition, solid 100% pewter,
only $22
plus inches tall.
Did you get that one, Craig?
I did not. No, I was never into statues really.
No,
I got all the like figures, although I didn't get the Ninja Turtles. I only have one of the Ninja Turtle figures, but. No, the statues are not my thing, really. Although I did buy, actually online, because I bought one of the, remember the Darker Ages, the mini pewter things that came out years later. They did a Dragon, a Rapture, and a Mighty Man.
Oh, yeah. I completely forgot about those.
I got the Dragon one.
And it
sucks.
Are either of you familiar with Stormwatch? Like it's run?
No.
I bought like the first 5 or 6 issues, I want to say. I think like Jim Lee did like the first 2 issues or something and then was like done or something. I forget.
I know that Vic Bridges was originally supposed to be the artist on that.
I remember that, yeah.
It's just this issue, this ad is talking about the end of Stormwatch, And my recollection is when Stormwatch ends, Authority begins. So I guess Stormwatch, but this is way too early for Authority.
That's when they're back to DC, right?
Yeah, I guess it would have been like one of the DC relaunches, perhaps. I don't know. I just don't have enough information.
It's up to issue 23, according to this ad.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing this ad for Savage Dragon 20, which that is not the cover for it.
I feel like Stormwatch was like, who was the guy that used to like kind of ghost Lee's pencils? Scott Williams, was it? Or
I wouldn't
like,
know.
I feel like it was like the same situation as Savage Dragon 13, where Jim Lee might have just like.
Was it Scott Clark?
No, I just feel like Jim Lee
Scott
for
Williams
the first few issues. Yeah, like someone kind of drew it, and Jim Lee maybe did little touch-ups here and there, but it was kind of sold like a Jim Lee book.
Just the Wildstorm. What is it? Wildstorm? Was that the name of his studio?
Jim Lee, yes.
Homage.
No,
I couldn't remember if it was Homage or
Wildstorm.
No.
Homage is a sub brand within Wildstorm.
Oh dear.
Homage was specifically for like Astro City and
no.
I want to say.
I feel like it started off as Homage.
No, it's
maybe changed.
Definitely Wildstorm. Wildstorm had several imprints. They had Homage and they had Cliffhanger and they had.
I think though when Image started, it started as Homage. And
I feel like it was too. I remember getting the Inside Image book
where all the studios.
Yeah.
And then I feel like Wildstorm, after he started pulling more books in from other creators, then it became Wildstorm.
To be fair, I never paid attention to what Jim Lee was doing, so it could have been Wildstorm was established first.
I think you're right. I don't know. If you look here,
I also don't give a shit.
Yeah. Okay, so you're right. I guess I wasn't aware of this part of their history. Homage was Wikipedia says Image grew out of Homage Studios and was founded by artists Portello, Jim Lee. Okay, weird. I didn't know this.
It's like Brandon Choi or something.
There's no details. Because it says here, Wildstorm, founded by Jim Lee and Brandon Choi, was one of the founding studios that formed Image Comics. It says Image grew out of Homage Studios. So
Do they mean Mirage?
That would make more sense, but I don't know.
Wasn't Sylvester?
It's Wikipedia. You can't trust any of it.
Unless Homage was just what they called their studio, like while they were still working at Marvel.
Possibly.
Maybe they just had a group of guys that just hung out in the office and they called it Homage Studios.
Yeah, whatever.
Doesn't matter. It's nothing now.
Ripclaw 3. I don't remember what Ballistic Studios, like Top Cow and Ballistic Studios. Don't know what that is.
At this time there was like a lot of like sub labels starting to get thrown around.
Then you get Extreme Studios with Bloodpool, Task, and Soul, which the anatomy on Soul is pretty weird.
Who drew this?
Who cares?
Amazing talent of Patrick.
Pat Lee.
Oh, okay. Just says Patrick.
It just says amazing talent of Patrick.
If you look under the Task,
okay,
there's a Pat Lee on the street sign.
All right, I see that now. But they just have him as Patrick. Pat Lee went on to draw those Transformers for Dreamwave.
Which he got a lot better.
Yeah, because he was drawing Transformers and not weird people.
It always blows my mind how there were so many, like, Liefeld clones.
Like, Bloodpool sounds like a parody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, is Extreme Studios went into self-parody very early.
Yeah.
They Flanderized themselves very early on. Just
and then there's the Max.
This ad is weird because it doesn't actually promote anything specifically. It just says go read the Max.
Hey, well,
Stop here. Yeah,
please.
Reminds me of like a Larson ad.
Looks like Hayachi from Tekken on the cover.
What was that guy's name? Like Mr. Black or something?
Mr. Gone?
Yeah, that's right. It's nice looking.
Painted. Yeah, it looks great. I mean, you don't need a specific issue number. Just go and read whatever issue's available.
Max was a fun series. It was just cool to look at.
Let's see, issue 2? Are we going to issue 2?
Star issue 2. Cover's kind of interesting with them falling out of the sky, which I guess is where we left off last issue, more or less.
It's exploding guts on the cover.
Yeah, it's a little weird for a cover.
Yeah, you do see the little blood streams come out his back, although I think the guts are actually tubes, techno tubes. Maybe not.
Yeah, it's red splatter, so I don't know.
It's hard to say.
Really intense, and it's hard to say like who's shooting at him because it ain't Star.
Yeah, or he's just like exploding. I gotta say, I hate the Star logo.
It's pretty plain. And you know what?
I hate embossed logos, things.
I don't think I ever noticed this before. Don't Star and Mighty Man have the same chest Starburst logo? I have to look this up.
I feel like Mighty Man's
just a regular star.
Yeah, Mighty Man's like.
I think it's like
no, they're both the identical
star.
On
his forehead.
On his head.
On his forehead. Yeah. Oh, okay, sorry.
And in the logo, they are identical to the original Ann Stevens Star burst.
Well, I think how it's drawn changes. Like on the cover, it's more like the Mighty Man one with a longer tail,
right?
Whereas like in the book, the four sides are pretty even.
But
right.
Yes, it does vary a bit. I guess I never noticed because I'm just more used to Lightning Bolt Mighty Man at this point.
I just saw today there was an ad in the back of one of these books for Star that had a different logo.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't. I'll find it.
Oh, okay. It's in the back of this issue, there's these comics rule, and the fourth image is all the secrets revealed. Star. It's very small.
There it is. Yeah.
It's a weird logo too, but I kind of like it better.
What issue? Which issue?
It's the back of issue 2. On the inside back cover, there's a double page black and white ad for some highbrow books.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, there is a completely different Star logo there. I actually want to say it's better.
Yeah, I think so. This one
I think it's like a little better.
I don't know.
It's legible, I will say. But the second issue logo works better than the first one. There's too much silver.
Yeah.
On the first issues, there's Star, and then there's the Star behind him that is also silver. I don't know. It's a little bit much, but I do like this other logo, and I wonder why they didn't use this one.
Well, it's advertising for issue 4. Maybe they changed it at the end and then just never used it.
I wonder. That's weird. Because I would understand if it was advertising issue 1, and then they changed it later. I don't know. It's cooler looking. They didn't use it. That was a mistake. That's on you, Larson.
Yep.
This Star just looks like simple, like font embossed, like Photoshop embossed font or something.
So his little escape here at the beginning is a little odd because he's getting towed by these ships. Okay, so they've got him wrapped up by the wrist and the feet to drag him, to drop him to his death on this spire. But he manages to like yank him into position to like pull him away to save him. It's just odd that their tow cables are like they don't detach.
Yeah.
Because you'd think they just detach from the unit and then you just fall.
Some of them I don't even know how they're holding on to them.
Yeah, it's a little it's awkward conceptually.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I just like fighting these mini airplanes. It's just
Like if there was a cable and it had a different little drone on the end of each end of the cable, and it was kind of looping around him, I could see that. But it's just doesn't make any sense how it's even holding him.
Right.
That one's just attached to his belt.
And how long is he flying for? Because he goes from like being in the middle of Chicago, I'm assuming, to like out in the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With like mountains and stuff.
He's in DeKalb now.
Where are there mountains there? I don't know. Like,
It's also really odd. There's an ad in the middle of the story that never ever happens in
The
this.
reason for that is because there's a double pager coming up that was not
Planned for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's two ads. Because there's another double pager later. That's the only time you ever see these ads in the middle of Larson's books.
Somebody miscounted.
Someone fucked up. Yeah.
Yep, it is just kind of weird how he ends up out in the country. You know that rural area that surrounds just Chicago, where the cows live, and presumably the burning field was.
And then he takes this drone to his friend here, the scientist guy that I don't recall ever seeing again after this.
Never seen before, never seen again.
Is like microchip guy.
Yeah.
I kind of hate the one drone carrying him, all his weight, and he's just like, the thing's just like got this, thruster in the back that's not burning him up or anything while he holds it, and I don't know.
Yeah,
it's not a fan.
You're asking the wrong questions, Craig. You're poking holes.
Tiny little cockpits. I wonder if that makes any more sense in the next couple issues of why there's a tiny cockpit. Were there tiny men supposed to be in there?
Someone wanted a model accurate.
Speaking of double page spreads, how do you feel about pages laid out like this?
I don't love them.
Yeah.
To be fair, it at least does a few things to make you know the direction you're supposed to be reading it by having the overlap. But I felt the middle column, the middle row, wasn't obvious enough. Even though because the overlap gets caught in the gutter, so it's kind of hard to notice.
Yeah, the blue panel should have came over a little bit more.
Yeah.
Star's shoulder underneath that too.
Or continued with the diagonal panels to keep the motif going.
I think it would look too busy if it was all diagonal, but I never like pages like this. Powers, they used to do this a lot, and sometimes they would do it where you have to read, you're supposed to read one side of the page and then the other, and sometimes it would just make it like this where you're reading from left to right over 2 pages, and it got so confusing, and it just, I don't think there's ever a way to do this that looks great.
I think the main problem is it starts with the top here, the second panel, right at the crease here. The only thing that's going on the second page is Star's elbow in that panel.
Right.
It's just not enough. I feel like if it was split maybe towards like his waist area, so you could see the rest of his body continuing onto the second page, it would be clearer that you're supposed to read it as 2 pages. I don't know. I try to avoid these kinds of layouts when I do mine, because it's real easy to confuse the readers.
Yeah.
Right.
A double page splash, that's easy. It's 1 image. These can get tricky unless you are really clever at
and you have the added downside of like losing information in the gutters, or just having the art broken up in an unappealing way, which I think has happened here, where you see his shoulder going across the page and it just kind of becomes a mass. It doesn't really look like it's supposed to.
Right.
To me, I feel like the sequence of like Star crashing down to the ground It could have all been fit on the left page with less panels, and you could have dedicated the second page to like this guy's laboratory and cool looking stuff.
Yeah.
And not been so small. Like I just, that whole top sequence is like, you can do that in 2 panels. Like those first 2 panels could be combined.
I like the sequence of those panels all because it all has the same background. So you can kind of see the flow of it.
Yeah.
It's nice, but it could have fit on 1 page. Maybe it wouldn't have had as much impact.
Yeah,
I
guess.
But
it does convey emotion, you're right.
It conveys emotion, but I do think, like you said, it would have been better to get maybe a bigger shot of this guy's lab. Because it comes out of nowhere on this. Yeah. That should have been its own page.
Yeah, to really establish it as opposed to...
Look at the first panel of the lab
establishing
sequence
shot. Yeah,
where
what is
he's
that?
like inside a basement, but look at the car. Like, what is that? It looks like it's like a little kid's like. It looks so small. If that's supposed to be a basement window.
It's
a ground. It's a basement window. It's only like that's all that's above ground. That's normal. You haven't seen like basement windows that look like that.
No, but look at the size of the car.
Yeah, that car.
If that's a basement window, shouldn't that car be a lot bigger than that?
I mean, the perspective, I don't know. That didn't bother me too much.
I do like that the next panel is an aerial shot, so it does seem like we're following through the window and then looking down on the lab.
Right.
Yeah.
That's nice, but I don't know who this guy is or what his relationship is with Star. I don't know if he's going to be explained in issues 3 and 4 or not, but...
He does say for a price Star guy, we can do anything, so it sounds like he might just... be a paid scientist, engineer that's like on call.
Yeah.
I don't know. Should have just had the guy that was bouncing Ricochet's rubber blood. Bring him back instead.
Then we get a bunch of guys that really don't care about.
No.
That's the next scene. Too many.
And then the one mob boss is in shadow, like
he's important.
Yeah, I don't know. Why are we leaving this a mystery?
Maybe it's
no one.
Mood lighting, but
just on his face though, and in every panel. Unless he's got like a fucked up face, but I don't think he does.
No, because we see it lit up in the final panel.
Oh, we sure do.
It's not.
So
it's just for mood, I guess.
It's weird that Overlord would call this guy on the phone.
Yeah, instead of just having a lackey do it, it seems.
Yeah, Skullface usually makes the phone calls, right?
Yeah, Skullface is the secretary of
he's
the circle.
Calling.
I do like they're establishing VC as kind of like the typical mob paying them protection money.
Yeah. This guy's a little mouthy, though, to Overlord. I could see him being mouthy to one of the goons on the phone, but Overlord himself?
Yeah, Overlord would come down here and burn these guys to death at this kind of behavior. This arcade, it's highbrow arcade. Okay, so that's funny because we see arcade machines for like Dragon and Vanguard.
And it's on the side of this arcade cabinet here, Dragon's fin is incorrect.
Yeah.
But when Dragon shows up later in this issue, it looks pretty good. So I'm assuming
like that's a like reference from like Rick Leonardi's like Dragon from Vanguard.
I would like to think that it was Ben Herrera making a statement that when he shows up on merchandise or other things, they don't quite get him right. But probably that's not what happened. Too meta. And holy shit, those guys are huge. Look how small Star is.
Yeah.
He's depicted as pretty small, which is odd because as we know who he is, he's not that small.
Hmm.
It is weird that one of the goons that was on the boat just happened to be in this arcade, and he has a very obvious tattoo for being identified with.
Yeah, very shitty tattoo.
Same tattoo on his head that he had was a snake tattoo on his helmet.
I think we just could see his face is what happened there.
Is that what it was?
I think he had, like, here, I'll double check. I think he just had goggles and something on. Yeah, he just had fancy sci-fi goggles, and his forehead was plainly visible.
Oh, my mistake.
Yeah. Of course.
I thought it was a helmet.
So the Viper guy was with another guy that had a snake's like back on his head. So they were like themed, but the other guy didn't have a snake head. He just had like the snake's body. It was.
I thought they were like Python Patrol.
Yeah.
Python Patrol.
Yeah, wasn't that the guys from G.I. Joe?
Was it? Was that
Tiger Force and Python?
Right.
Those were repaints of G.I. Joe guys. Only now they got tiger marks.
Who are the every franchise has snake guys, right? He-Man. Who are the guys in Avengers?
The Serpent Society.
Yeah.
Serpent Society, yeah.
And then Invincible had the
the lizards or something.
Lizard League. It was Lizard League.
The Lizard League, yeah.
What was He-Man's? It was like King Hiss. I don't know if they had a group.
They were just called the Snake Men.
Of course.
Of course. They would have come up with something a little bit more clever. Although they had guys named Grizzlor and Roboto. So maybe Snake Men was just the best they could come up with. I had a group of snake guys in a story that I did once, and I called them the Serpenturions.
Oh.
So I might have to use that for later. It's not bad.
We get a dragon cameo.
Hey, it's Dragon.
Yeah.
He's working with the Vigilante. Doesn't seem to have any problem with it. Considering
and
last
again,
time.
these quips from Star are great.
Yeah, he's pretty funny. The quip stuff is actually pretty endearing overall, I'd say.
Yeah. I really like it.
It is interesting because you don't hear him quip as much in Dragon. And it's a lot more quippy in this book.
When you look at the interaction between Peter Clapton and Chris on the page where they're driving in a sports car, you do notice now that like Chris has got Band-Aids all over his face, and now it's kind of hard not to notice that.
Right. This whole thing about the tabloid saying that he used to be a woman is a weird thing. Toss in there. Although it does tell us that Peter really cares about his image.
Yes.
And that's almost exclusively what he's about is cultivating an image.
He wants people to think that he's Star.
Right.
Yes.
And I gotta say, I did not immediately realize this was the same woman from the opening in the first issue. Because that's who she is.
Did. Yeah, I realized that. I did know that.
I think it would have been more clear if these two were condensed into one issue.
Yeah.
I did forget that Chris Robinson was associated with the Vicious Circle.
I also forgot that. Well, I knew his brother was.
Right, that was what I was going to say.
Brother's Bludgeon, right? Or no?
Yeah. Or will become Bludgeon.
I forget because there's like a
second Bludgeon.
Yeah, because that always messes me up that there are two Bludgeons.
Wait, because isn't there also the other guy who like kidnaps? Oh, never mind. I'm thinking of what's his face and Rita.
Ralph.
Yeah, that guy. That's unrelated to Chris. Never mind.
Yeah, that's William's brother.
It's William's brother, exactly.
Yeah, I completely forgot that he was involved with the Vicious Circle.
This is probably Skullface on the phone this time.
It's all Skullface is the one that makes the threatening calls.
What kind of music do you think Peter Clapton plays? Because I'm getting a lot of mixed messages from this band.
Well, from the way they look.
Because he's like in a suit. Of course, it is rehearsals, and they're all like grunge and rock and roll.
He plays like Huey Lewis in the news.
Lewis. Yeah, there it is. And they're the news.
Yes.
Now, is his manager talking to the tabloids? He's telling him that he burned his hair off freebasing cocaine.
Right. That makes sense. That he's like leaking this. He's basically the one leaking this stuff to the tabloids to I guess cultivate the image Peter wants. But Peter's mad that he's not doing it the right way. I don't know. But it is pretty clear, like right away, that as of the ending of this, is that the word is out that Peter Clapton is Star, because he gets attacked here at his rehearsal by a big flying ship with a few Dave Johnson accoutrements sticking out the butt.
It's a cool looking ship.
Not bad. Yeah, seems to be using like sonic weapons, going ee.
And then you get a Shron. What is that? Shron?
Shram?
Shram?
Oh, that's a sharam.
Yeah. Shram.
And a bada boom. A bada doom.
A tomb. And a badoom. And then padoom and poom poom.
I gotta say, the people don't look that frightened.
Peter's pretty nonchalant.
Looks a little weird.
Scale's a little weird. Backgrounds are sparse. Luckily, there was no crowd that he had to draw.
Yeah, I'm gonna destroy this empty stadium. I'm just gonna
do it
start
during the
shooting.
concert.
Just start shooting these empty seats.
Yeah.
Because they're just practicing, right? It's a sound check.
This is a better way to end it, I think, than the first issue where he was just about to get dropped on some antennas. Especially now because it seems like it is starting to become a little bit more clear that maybe Peter is not Star.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a ton to say about this, is there?
There really isn't. I don't know.
It's the hard part about this series is that, I mean, it is, I've said this before, it is a very serviceable comic book.
Yes.
It hits all the correct beats, action, adventure, a little tiny bit of intrigue, but it's
fast-paced and slow at the same time.
Yes, exactly. We're 2 issues in and we don't feel like we've gotten very far, even though we've seen like 5 action scenes.
Right.
Yeah, I think, a product of its time. We haven't seen much of Star at this point when this was coming out, so it gives readers kind of, at this point we're reading it knowing all about Star for whatever 30 years.
Yeah, and that's why I think maybe I'm being too unfair to it.
There's still this game of who is he, what is Star all about, like we're starting to see he's got all these little contraptions and stuff. Starting to understand he's more Spider-Man-ish. So we're learning, there's a lot more information if you've never read anything about Star, which people would be at this time, than I think we're giving it credit for, but
yeah, they have really cranked up the Spider-Man-ness of it. Which, to be fair, I did want to mention this. I found it a little odd, like all of like his like agile feats. They feel pretty dangerous for a guy with no superpowers. Like
swinging on cables 100 feet in the air.
Yeah, stuff like that.
I just kind of there's 8 pages dedicated to him fighting those drones at the beginning of this issue.
Oh, yeah, wow. that is a lot.
That is a lot.
And a lot of these pages are just like empty space.
Yeah, it's speed lines that are spaced out weirdly. I don't know. It's not a bad looking book. It's just very simple. Like the art is simple, the story is simple, the pacing is very simple. Again, like if I had bought the first issue and I'm like, I guess I'll try a second issue, and I picked this up, I don't know if I'm sticking around for 3. If I wasn't like a Dragon super fan,
right? And the thing is, this book isn't even written by Eric. Well, to be fair, neither was Super Patriot, because that was all Giffen and beer bombs. But this one has even less like Eric involvement, it feels like.
Yeah, I think it needs, and like the beer bombs, the dialogue is really good, but I think maybe their pacing isn't great.
Right.
The
and
thing
somebody
too is,
maybe could have helped out a little bit on getting the story beats a little bit.
it's also, the villains aren't that interesting. The drones, and then when he's actually fighting people, they're just regular people. They're not. It's not that fun to look at. It's okay.
Yeah, it's just 3 big guys in shirts at the arcade. One guy with a snake tattoo on his head.
And a giant ship that comes and shoots sound waves.
Well, I know that, and there's some actual Vicious Circle guys that show up later in the series, but it seems generic. The villains are simple. It's just simple.
Yeah. Well, I guess they all
it's
can't
not very
be winners.
ambitious. No. Serviceable, I think, is definitely the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
But these would have been fine, I think, as backup stories, like running through the back of Dragon.
Right.
Like when Vanguard was running.
I think there's just so much going on. New characters. Like, I'm sure that people were excited to read about Star, this new character. It just could have been executed better. I think, he could definitely have his own book, or at least a couple miniseries. Yeah. But I think, like you said, either on issue 1 or 2, it's kind of like once the cat is out of the bag, I don't know. He's not that interesting. He's got no powers. He's not like a rich guy that can have gadgets unless Clapton somehow still sponsoring him. And so coming at it after knowing all this, it makes it even less interesting. So I think part of that was the intrigue in the beginning of like, they're making that a major plot of this. Like, who is it? So you're looking for clues.
Who is Shadowhawk?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's really not a lot of red herrings in here.
No.
There's really only 2 people that it could be. Peter Clapton or Chris Robinson. And the obvious one is Peter Clapton, so if it's not him, then I guess it's got to be his friend. I think if there were more
what if like Peter Clapton had like an entourage, and there was like 4 different people that Star could be, and then you tease that for a while, and you really put the focus on like the rock star lifestyle, and then occasionally you have the Peter disappears and Star shows up stuff.
Yeah,
but
you could tease it a little bit more. Go ahead.
I was just saying, let me ask you a question. I can't remember. Was Eric even playing at Star isn't Peter Clapton, or are we just everyone all along just like, is it obvious that he's trying to make a mystery of it, or is it just at the time is everyone just think Peter Clapton is Star?
Let me check something really quick.
No, because I was reading some of the stuff in the back, and it seemed like it was, if you're just reading it straight at face value, Peter Clapton is clearly Star.
Right.
But in some of the like letter columns and stuff, it's like, oh, some of you guys have figured out the secret of Star or whatever, and I can't print those letters.
But that doesn't necessarily mean.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I don't think it was ever advertised like as a. Yeah, you could be right.
So I can't remember, and I didn't read that at the time it came out.
Yeah, I wasn't around at the
time.
time. But I also think just playing it up like he is Peter Clapton the whole time, and then you get hit with, oh, just kidding, it's been Chris Robinson the whole time. And it is a good punch.
And then going back and being like, oh, shit, that was so clear,
Yeah. So I don't know. But again, we're reading these retroactively with the knowledge of who these people are already. So it's hard to judge.
Right. But if there's not that mystery, then it makes these books even a little more boring to me in my
Yes.
mind. Like if he was playing it straight, like this is Peter Clapton, there's no mystery involved, and everyone just thinks it's Peter Clapton.
Right, that's the problem.
Yeah, it's like, oh, there's not much to this.
It's fighting some robots again. Tossed a guy through a window.
I really still don't know what's going on. Like,
with the villains?
yeah, like what is the goal here? Or is he just chasing things down for clout?
I guess we're going to have to wait and find out in issues 3 and 4, but it does seem like it's just a bunch of random shit.
So I pulled out my Savage Dragon Ultimate Collection Volume 1 just to take a look at that Star backup.
Yeah.
And at the end of that story, Star gets his hair burned off.
Yep.
And he says out loud to nobody, "So much for my trademark hair. This will sure play well on Entertainment Tonight. This is no way for Idol of Millions to be treated. Oh man, sheesh, I wonder if Inferno made it through that one." It almost is as if he was supposed to be Peter Clapton all along. And at some point he changed his mind.
Didn't Peter Clapton, remind me, it's been so long, didn't Peter Clapton go out as Star a few times and get banged up before?
Oh.
Yeah. I think he went out like once and got his ass kicked, and then he's like, I need a bodyguard.
Yeah, and I think that comes up in a backup later.
Yeah, it was in flashbacks.
And of course then there's also during the Savage World where he's fired Chris Robinson and he goes out of Star during the Possession story and gets murdered, gets absolutely killed. Also, that Star logo we saw, it's actually in this backup. So it's actually an old logo.
Okay. That makes sense. But I don't think that he was planned to be Peter Clapton originally, because in the old graphic fantasy stuff, he was always Chris Robinson, right?
Oh, that's a good point, too.
Yeah.
This dialogue's weird, then. Maybe he was told to say it, so that in case any reporters are nearby.
Right. In case somebody hears him. I don't know. I like Star. I wish I liked this series more.
Yeah, same.
And it's the beer bombs are trying their hardest. Ben Herrera's trying.
I knew I wasn't gonna like this one. I just couldn't remember anything about it.
That's never a good sign.
Because I do like I love Savage Dragon so much. I remember like most of the series, or at least remember pieces of it. Like I don't remember anything about this other than it wasn't that great.
Right. It's forgettable. It's the whole thing is leading up to the twist of it being Chris Robinson, but unfortunately nothing leading up to that is all that interesting on its own.
Right. Yeah. There's just the mystery is just a mystery. It's like it doesn't really drive anything. There's no pathos to it.
Yeah, and if you're not expecting a mystery, then you're not trying to figure anything out. I don't know. I'm looking ahead through issues 3 and 4, and looks like 3 and 4 look more interesting.
Well, we guess we'll find out in a couple of
Hellraiser shows up. Spoilers.
Ooh, it was good to see that guy.
Yeah. Well, Dragon's on the cover, so they're like, he's coming up.
The obligatory Dragon guest appearance spot. I guess that's it. That's all we got to say for this comic. I mean, like I said, it's decent. It's just not the most exciting thing ever, which is unfortunate. I think that's kind of why it gets overlooked a lot compared to like its contemporaries of the 1995 crowd.
Yep.
So, I guess we'll sign off and just say, as always, you can find us at savagefincast.com. And, of course, if you have any questions or comments or, are you the biggest Star fan on Earth and love this comic, you can write in and tell us at savagefincast@gmail.com. The show is found on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, all the places podcasts are found. And thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Signing off.